Hello and welcome to Parently, where we tap into the unique experiences and perspectives of parents to celebrate the joys and honor the challenges of child rearing. With new interviews each week, this is a podcast for moms and dads seeking an empowering community and a little levity. Now here's your host, Kelsey Higgins.
Hello and welcome to Parently. Today's guest is Amber Arens. Amber, thank you for joining today.
Absolutely.
Is this your first podcast?
It is my first podcast.
How are you feeling?
A little nervous.
Are you worried that you'll say something that you'll regret?
Maybe.
Really?
Or just not speak eloquently enough. I'm always worried about the words I'm using and just in general how I'm speaking.
I know that's not true. You're going to be wonderful. I'm so excited for Amber to be here. We have a really cool topic that is really near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. A tough, hopefully rewarding experience that a lot of people go through. So we're going to be talking about IVF. Amber, before we start that, give me a little bit of background on you, where you're from, where you grew up, family, friends, interests. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are.
Yes. So born and raised in Minnesota. I've never left.
Really?
Never left Minnesota. I wish I would have at one point, but I've stayed
Now you're
grounded
locked
here.
in?
I'm locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I've lived around the state, went to school in Duluth, and hope to get back there one day. Maybe. We'll see. Love it up there. But born and raised here, never left Minnesota. Now I live just outside of the cities. And I have, my 3-year-old son.
3-year-old.
So it's me and Otto.
Little Otto.
And
Sweet
then,
pea.
yes. And then my 8-year-old dog, Nova. So it's us 3. And I have built a career in HR. So I currently work as an HR generalist. And yeah, what else about me? Friends and family all around Minnesota.
Let me
Really
do a
close.
tangent for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What is a common misconception people have about HR?
That we are scary, and if we are in the room, you have to be on your absolute best behavior. The amount of times the amount of times that you hear as an HR professional of HR's in the room, like don't say what you want to say, or watch what you say, or it's constant.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you're just a regular cool gal.
Just
Trying to enforce
regular and
the
cool.
rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just doing my job.
All right. So it's Amber, Otto, and Nova.
Yes.
Otto is 3 years old. So your IVF journey was a minute ago.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
When's the last time you talked about it?
It's been a while. I want to say at least a few years, because I truly have lived a couple of different lifetimes since since the whole experience. So yeah, it's been a couple of years at least since I've at least even talked about it, talked about any details, just in general, answered questions. So it was fun kind of revisiting it.
When you think about it, what do you feel when you think about it? Is it scary? Is it exciting? Is it traumatic? How does it feel?
It feels incredibly rewarding because, as I said, it was really fun to revisit it. I have all my notes here just to help talk through it because there was so much that I forgot about and so much that you're just in the moment kind of on auto drive.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on, so much to consider, so much to think about and worry about and just in general manage. So rewarding is definitely one thing that comes to mind, especially now because for me, I have a success story out of it. I have a 3-year-old throughout the entire experience. So it just feels really good and I feel really proud of myself for everything that I went through. So going through all of this was really cool. I mean, emotional, but cool.
Yeah. Well, bring us through the journey. Tell me about your IVF journey. Start wherever you want. Talk about whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. There's a long version and there's a short version. We'll kind of do a blend today.
I was going to say, we'll do like the 25-minute version.
Yeah, we can do that. So it really started with just anybody's journey of trying to conceive. It had been the point where at the time Otto's dad and I were ready to get started. We wanted to start a family and had been trying for some time. You go through it month after month after month and eventually get to a point where you start kind of questioning things, start kind of looking into things, start doing the research. So it had been a little over a year at that point to where that research did need to start happening and more work needed to go into it. So had looked at that point, infertility clinics in the area, landed on one, and that's really when everything just started and just kind of the world changed for me, because it took so much work. And in general, I knew nothing really, next to nothing about IVF and the entire infertility experience. And so it was at that point, once we landed on a clinic, it starts with tests, so many tests, because
like blood tests,
blood work, primarily a lot of blood work, answering questions, just monitoring, checkup on kind of your entire health profile. And so for both individuals. And so had done that and that can take, depending on the individual, it can take a little bit of time, because everybody's experience is different. And so you're waiting for the results, you're kind of seeing what is happening, essentially to get the diagnosis of the why. And some people never get the why, which I can imagine can be difficult. So we were able to get at least some answers and some direction. And very quickly determined that IVF was the route that needed to happen. For, again, a lot of individuals, there's different options. There's IVF, there's IUI. Still don't know in terms of IUI and everything that can occur there, just because that wasn't something that at the time had explored. It just jumped right into IVF. Which at the doctors at that point, had stated if that was your best chance. So then it's really coming up with your entire plan, which I keep looking at my notes here, because this is, you get so much paperwork, you get so much information, there's so much to consider, because once you go through that initial kind of intake, all the initial work, then it's the next step of preparation of financial planning, decision making, just mentally preparing for the entire experience. And so, and paperwork, because you have to sign all of this paperwork ahead of time too, and make decisions not knowing the outcome. There's a lot of legality to it as well, which I won't get into because that's a whole nother story.
Let me ask you
a lot of decision
about
making.
The financial piece.
Yeah.
Anything covered by insurance? No. Everything out of pocket.
Primarily. The initial blood work, some of those visits were, to some extent, not entirely, but some were, depending on how they were coded. And that's one of the directions that the clinic gives you, is when you're speaking to your health provider or your medical insurance, just making sure that it's coded a certain way, or this is how we code it, see what's covered. So again, research and looking into what you can do and decision making. But outside of that, because infertility is not a commonly covered procedure, and in general, it's not something that you find with a lot of health plans as part of your health plan. So you get all that information up front too. They expect payment up front, and again, it's a huge just consideration, because you have to
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Can you share how much?
In total, after everything said and done, and I did look into this because I had to revisit it, for both of the cycles, it's not just that, but it's also the prescription. So there's layers too that you don't really even think about. But all in all, said and done, it was around $31,000 to $32,000.
Oh my gosh. But of course you look at Otto and you're like, I would pay double.
I would pay any dollar I needed to.
Oh, wow.
So obviously money incredibly well spent, but that's a
hard
lot to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's the financial planning and kind of looking at accounts and what we can do here and what we want to apply for and all of the things you have to think through, because going through it originally, you get the sheet of like, here's what the cycle cost is. You're like, okay, that's not as bad as I was thinking. And then it's like, oh, but then all your medications, that's another cost. And then, oh, this extra cycle, because then if it doesn't take the first time, this is what to consider. Because prescriptions alone, to give you one example, prescriptions alone were between $5,000 to $6,000.
Wow.
And so I had to do research on different prescribers around the country to try to find the best cost. And you get a whole list that you can call.
I can't believe how much work was on you to do all of that.
It's a lot of, it's a lot of work
Wow.
to just in that particular scenario, look at the different and kind of cost compare with prescriptions.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I sidetracked you. So, so you were looking at all the financials. You're signing the paperwork, doing the tests, et cetera. Then what?
Yep. And then at that point, it's putting together a plan with your provider. So, working with my provider at the time, determining timeline, how it works, answering all the questions. And so we had started the entire process early that year, which would have been 4 years ago. And then
that math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? Out of three. And then it was that fall by the time the whole process really got started, again, after the initial blood work, the planning, the timeline. And so then you get your plan. And that's what, like, one of these sheets that I have here is like the whole layout of what you need to do, because there's two primary cycles. So it's the retrieval cycle, and then it's the actual transfer.
Okay.
And then there's different ways that you can do the transfer.
So retrieval is when they get eggs out of you.
Yep. So
are you knocked out for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When they pull the eggs out of you. So for a period of time, which would have been, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks. You're pumping so much medication in you. You're pumping everything you can to produce as many eggs as possible so they can retrieve as many as possible. So you're going through that cycle. And then when that's done.
Did that make you a little crazy?
A little bit.
Did it?
Well,
I've heard that.
Yeah, because it's, again, just with the planning. You have to take the medication at a certain time of the day. It has to be planned out. It has to be really up until the last point, because before the retrieval actually happens, this is just one example, you have to do this trigger shot, and that has to happen like exactly, 12 hours in advance, and like you can't miss that timeline. So like there's just so much stress, and when you're taking it, you have to remind yourself to take it. So I had a whole whiteboard of all the medications I needed to take every day, and I was crossing it out as I was taking it. That in addition to like just living out your life.
Yeah.
On top of making sure that you're taking medication at the appropriate time.
A lot of added stress to the situation.
A lot of added stress.
Okay.
And so went through the retrieval, very successful, fortunately. And then at that point, you get a whole nother plan. Well, okay, I got ultimately determining how many eggs that they retrieved, and then which ones kind of make it through each stage as they mature, and then eventually which ones they can use, really. And then, so for me, that entire experience too was just very emotional, because you're pumped up on medication. You're so stressed that it's not going to work, or you just don't know the outcome. And so, but we were getting good news the entire time.
Is it a very personal question to ask how many eggs they retrieved?
For me, no, and I'm open to sharing. And also for me, it was kind of wild. So average number of eggs for women for what they retrieve is typically for my age too, because it all depends on your age, your entire kind of diagnosis, kind of your medical profile. But average for women under 35, which I was at the time, is upwards of 20.
Oh, okay.
And they retrieved 50 from me.
Holy smokes.
So started with 50. Again, when I say like I continued to get good news,
That's amazing.
that was
And then I know
kind of astronomical.
They grade the eggs, right?
Mhm.
And so you had a lot of high grades as well with your.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, I have the numbers right here.
Oh,
So
okay.
as we move through the stages, or as the eggs move through the stages, so yeah, they retrieved 50, which was shocking, just completely shocking. Like I came out of anesthesia, and they're like, "So you were a rock star?" Like really? And you're still kind of out of it. You're like, "What's going on?" So they retrieved 50. 40 ended up being mature, 22 fertilized, and then ended up having 6 that made it to what's called the blastocyst stage.
Okay.
And then the decision at the time I had made was to do what was defined as CCS or CSS testing, which essentially is genetic testing.
Okay.
So determine, just like you do genetic testing with a standard
And
pregnancy.
that's a decision that you make whether or not you want to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Which, yeah, you don't have to, but did. And so they went through, they being at that point, the embryos went through the testing. And so ended up with 5 healthy ones through the testing. So then that's what moves you into the next phase, which is the plan of like, okay, which ones do you want to transfer? Because too, when you go through genetic testing, you can determine, or you have insight into the sex too. And so again, another consideration, which at the time, that was not a decision. It was just transfer the healthiest one.
So I actually am surprised at the number of eggs, 50 eggs, but at the end of the day, there were 5 that were healthy out of, I mean, that's what, 10%?
Yeah.
That's actually lower than I would expect. Because if you think about people who only, get, I don't know, I have a girlfriend who had I think she had 6 eggs maybe.
Yeah.
So
which is not uncommon.
That's
I was a unique case.
That's crazy. Okay, so then you had the 5 and you said transfer the healthiest one.
Yep.
Do you then have to make a decision about what to do with the others?
Yep. And that's part of some of the pre-decision too, of what do you want to do with the others? And you don't know how many you're going to get out of it too, but you're making some of those decisions ahead of time because at the end of the day, things can change at any moment and they have to have record because they're embryos.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense, but you don't, and I didn't think about it at the time of, oh yeah, we have to actually really think about what we want to do with them and how we want to handle it and where they're going to go. And there's different ways and different routes that you can take. And so yes, it was also part of the decision. Do you want to freeze them? Do you want to donate them? Do you want to do, there's a couple different options.
What did you do?
Froze the rest of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you think about, because I think sometimes folks will transfer multiple.
Yep.
Did you think about that?
Yes, but it wasn't actually part of my experience based off of what my provider, the direction that I was getting.
Okay.
Again, my specific case, my diagnosis, quote unquote, and in general, what they suggested. Because it also depends too on many other factors, age, diagnosis, your body. And so that was a decision that I couldn't even make. It was, we are going to transfer one.
Okay.
But yes, if I was older in age, they probably would have transferred more than one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then they transferred the egg.
So transfer the egg. So
what
then
is that
happens.
experience like? Because that sounds so easy. They transfer the egg, but were you out again? Were you just out all the time?
Mm-mm.
No, you were awake.
Yep.
Okay.
So only out during the retrieval process.
Okay.
And so with the transfer, again, that is another cycle that you're still taking all of this medication because you're preparing your body to get pregnant. And so just like a natural pregnancy, your body is automatically building that all up, but you have to tell your body to do it by giving your body this medication. And so that was a whole nother cycle to which, again, you're planning down to the day, you're calling them, you're you're going in for blood work and tests because you have to be at certain levels in order for it to happen. And so then it could change by the day because depending on your blood work, one day, we want to keep you going on X medication until you get to this point where you're ready for the transfer.
Okay.
And so then it was about, let's see, because that ended, it was like early October. And then it was about a month or so later that the cycle happened because I did a fresh transfer because you can do a frozen transfer. And then that, like, I could have waited.
Oh, I see.
I could have waited a couple of months. Like, okay, yep, got the retrieval, got the embryos, and they're ready to be transferred essentially whenever. But at that time, did the fresh transfer. So it was not long after they were able to go through all the testing and had the embryo ready. And so, yep, pumped more medications. And with the transfer itself, very kind of quick and painless experience.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you are in the room. I was in a room where you can see the embryo on the screen and essentially just see it happening. And as they're literally transferring it,
That's
which
amazing.
is just this wild experience. You're like, okay, now we just wait. Like, is it going to be successful? And so the transfer happens and you wait for a call. Because you do the pregnancy test and whether or not you at that point get the update if it was successful or not. And I did get a call,
amazing.
Which was right around Christmas that year.
So I would say in terms of the IVF process, yours was kind of an ideal process, right?
Yeah. There's many women that don't have this kind of experience or the transfer isn't successful and then you're left with more decision making. And so I kind of had the best case scenario where it was in this high volume of eggs. And so there was a high likelihood that we were going to end up with a successful embryo or a highly graded embryo. And then with the transfer as well, first try.
So when I watch you talk about it and I ask questions, I sense that you're almost hesitant to talk about how good you were at it and like how well it worked. Do you feel a little like guilty? Do you not want to make other people feel bad? Because I can tell you're like the A+ student who's like, oh yeah, that was a hard test.
Yeah, right. Terrible at tests. I mean, like anything, I would see that kind of coinciding with like mom guilt because yes, there are so many that don't get to say what I'm saying today. Mm-hmm. And so it does make you feel like, wow, I can't believe that I was able to do that. And again, my body was able to do that. And so it does leave you a little guilty because for many, you just hear so many stories that don't end up with, the outcome.
Which is insane because it's really all perspective. Like I know tons of women would hear your story and feel so sad that you had to do all of that, whereas other women would hear your story and think you're so lucky that so it's all within perspective, and it's hard not to kind of play the comparison game when you're thinking about things like that.
It is. And I think just we as women, we're constantly playing the comparison game because it goes back to as well, like when at that point I was trying to get pregnant, a lot of other friends in my life were having success and able to get pregnant much easier. And so the comparison game of like, well, they got to successfully conceive naturally and I didn't, that was not part of my story and I wasn't able to do that. And so it's just, it's hard. It's very difficult to not compare.
It probably feels really unfair as you're writing a giant check.
Yeah. Here you go, here's our entire savings. Yes.
That's intense.
Intense.
Is there anything, what piece of advice would you give to first someone who's thinking about this journey or maybe starting on this journey, and second, someone whose loved one is going through the journey? How can they be supportive?
Starting the journey or going through the journey, definitely just doing the research because there's so much to learn. And there's so much to consider, and there's so much that I didn't realize with each and every step that came with it to really help me can get into this like state of mind of understanding and just mentally prepare for what's to come and what could happen. But again, you also don't want to put yourself so far ahead of the what ifs, because then that can create so much more stress and anxiety as well. But certainly just kind of the research is huge, in finding, I don't know, online forums, online communities, things like that, because there are so many more than we realize that go through IVF or have to go through IVF or just have infertility. And to answer your second question, friends and family, just the support behind it, it's simply just talking about it. It makes such a difference, because in asking questions and being there for them like you would in any hardship or challenge that someone might go through, but talking about it and asking questions, because that helps with the learning too. I remember at the time getting questions from friends, family, my mom, and it was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or, you know, I appreciate you asking because I hadn't really considered it. I want to think about that, or I'm happy to discuss it because this is something that's been on my mind. So it's simply just talking about it can make such a difference.
That's really good advice, and one that I have not done well, because I've always taken the approach. I know several, loved ones who have gone through the journey, and I've always taken the approach, like, if they want to talk about it, they'll like tell me about it. I don't want to like pry.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear your perspective of like, they might be wanting you to ask about it. And that's good advice. I like that.
Because for me too, it was one of those things I didn't bring up on my own a lot of the time. Because again, for various reasons, playing the comparison game, other people were successfully getting pregnant at the time and didn't want to take away from, their experience, and just in general, not wanting to talk about it just because it was a challenge and I didn't know what was going to come of it. And I was learning each and every day how to navigate it, and emotions can be all over the place. And then you're on medications and your emotions are all over the place for other reasons. And so it's a journey.
So I want to talk a little bit about your life now. You're a single parent. What is that like?
It's an experience.
It honestly seems so tiring. I think I would just be tired all of the time. I'm tired all of the time right now, and I have a partner helping me parent at all times.
It is. However, I mean, for me, I'm with Otto 50% of the time.
Okay.
So this exhaustion that comes from being a single parent, that's also what makes it challenging, because you go from having to be on 100%. You have to be the one showing up 100% because it's just me, to then the next 24 hours I'm not with him and it's 0%. So it's a very much an up and down. But it is exhausting in that way, just because I'm doing and thinking about every single thing when I'm with him. It's the planning, it's getting ready. It is all of I went through potty training with him. And so it's, and all of the different stages that, in this case, a toddler goes through. So yes, it is exhausting. It is a constant learning experience, not just as a parent, but constant learning experience about myself and what I'm capable of and how I handle things. And how I'm regulating my own emotions while helping to navigate him regulate his emotions. So it every day brings something different, as parenting does. But as a single parent too, it's the navigation of making these decisions all on my own and kind of preparing for what's to come next too. Because the next stage, now I have to start thinking about school, but then someone else is also part of that decision. And then we have to come to that decision together. Because up until now, there's not a lot of decisions to be made, right? He goes to daycare. We have our time with him, but it's only going to get more complicated, because then it's school, and then it's sports, and then it's friends, and then it's everything else that comes with age.
Yep.
So it's been fairly straightforward until it's not, when bigger decisions are going to have to start coming into play.
So let me ask, at this stage that he's at right now, do you and Otto's dad like subscribe to the same parenting philosophies and techniques? Or is it kind of like when Otto's at mom's, it's mom's rules. When Otto's at dad's, it's dad's rules. Like, you guys don't try to, I guess, coordinate.
In a way. And we do keep in communication as far as how he's doing and how he's acting. And so have I would say, decent co-parenting relationship in that way, where, again, some like might not be willing to have that conversation or willing to talk about it. And so I am grateful at least that we can be on the same page for how things are and how he's being raised at the moment. But on the other side, I genuinely don't know what he is doing. I mean, I genuinely don't know what he's doing 50% of the time, which is very difficult. But also, I don't know how I genuinely don't know how he's being parented. Only, like, I hear about it and I'm told it, but I don't get to see it and live that out. And I really never have, just because it's majority of Otto's life. We have not been together. And so I simply do not know. And that's really difficult. But overall, it kind of is. When you're with mom, this is kind of how things are. And then, when you're with dad, it could be a little bit different. But just how I've navigated it so far, it seems like it's
he's a good kid.
He's a fantastic kid. And he is such a loving, caring, he's got a sweet, sweet, sweet heart. And you just see him grow in so many different ways, and how he is just handling himself and how he communicates. And that also just makes me feel so good too, about when you talk about like just co-parenting styles. It makes me feel good with all the changes he has to experience on a weekly basis, because he's just such a resilient kid, and he just has such a big heart. I mean, he's 3, so he's a true like 3-nager. He's sweet, then he's sour, then you're navigating a huge tantrum, and then the next minute he's giving you hugs and saying, "I love you, mommy." And
there's something about little boys and their mommies, and it's just like, it's so special. They just are. There's like a special connection, I think, between little boys and their mommies.
Yeah, he's right now one of the sweetest things. He's in a stage where every single morning he wakes up, he calls for me, and I go into his room, and it's, "Mommy, I want to go into your bed." And it's just like this tradition that's been going on for like months now. And so I carry him over, and then he lays in my bed for a little while, and it's really sweet.
It's so precious. And then if you're like me, you're constantly like upset about it, because you're like, someday this won't be what we do anymore.
I have to.
I spent so much time upset about what's going to end.
Right. Yes. And I mean, there's some mornings where like that'll happen, and I'll be like, "Oh, I slept in a little bit longer than I needed to, so I need to get up." Like, say it's a work day, and he, wants to, snuggle in bed, and I'm like, "I gotta get ready." And it's, again, going back to the guilt part of like, you can't get this 5 minutes back, when even though I'm like in a rush to get ready, and I'm in the bathroom, getting everything, getting myself ready, getting everything done, while he's just wanting to play and snuggle and
be with mom.
That's
so sweet. Okay, Amber, is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to share?
I mean, there's so much.
I know. I told you this would go by really fast.
Really, really, really fast. I mean, because IVF too, there's so much more to it. Obviously, you can break down the nitty-gritty details. And then to just kind of the navigation into being a mom, and now as a single parent, there's definitely one thing that I learned about myself over the past 3 years. Everything that's happened, it's this immense state of resiliency that women have. Resiliency, intuition that women have that I would highly advise that women tap into, but also just how powerful we can be
I love that.
in everything that we do as moms, as decision makers, as just individuals. I've become pretty proud of everything. I mean, that my body went through with IVF, and then to just navigating single parenthood.
Sometimes you got to get pretty low and dark to be able to appreciate and see all of those things.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Sometimes it takes that, unfortunately, but you rise up and you reflect and you learn.
I love that. And I like what you said about intuition, because it can be, I know times in my life I didn't trust my gut, and I should have. Like it has never led me wrong. And it's like, as women, why don't we do that? We're always second guessing. We're always making excuses. We're always listening to like outside influences, when I just think so much of everything is like already inside of us.
Yeah.
And we just don't pay attention.
Sometimes we just ignore it because we don't want to hear it, or we don't want to see it, or we're in a total different state of mind. We're like, no, that's not how it should be. And no, this is all good. But intuition and your gut is so incredibly powerful.
I love that. What a great note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that, Amber.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so open and vulnerable about a really rewarding but difficult time in your life.
Yes, it's a great way to describe it.
And to all of the listeners, thank you for joining for another insightful conversation. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. See you next time.